and
away
welcome
in
to Glitch
3,
Point.
2,
So, yeah, this was an interesting
1.
week. I mean, there was a couple of things since we've talked last. I know that PlayStation made a couple more reveals and showed a lot of the same stuff. Whatever, you know. And then there was the acquisition by Microsoft, which it actually wasn't Bethesda, it was Zenimax, which is even cooler because if it was just a subsidiary, I would be like, "Oh, that's cool. I like Bethesda's games, but dude, do I want ID on there?" Or id, sorry, whatever you wanted to call them. So that's awesome. And yeah, so we could talk about that probably first. There's also just all the pricing stuff. There's graphics card stuff.
Well, you know, let's do chronological. So I wanted to start with the PS5 because that was a hell of a day. So I thought that the stream was it was okay. I mean, I think starting off with the Final Fantasy 16 release.
Well, it's also for the J crowd, right? The Japanese market. I mean, that's their biggest game. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was huge for them to start off with. But I think the problem was that it was like part 2 of that last conference. And some of the games they showed off, even though they did show more gameplay, like with Spider-Man Miles Morales, I don't think anybody cared to see more gameplay of that game. Like, we've played an entire game exactly like this game. We know how the game plays.
I think the biggest win was the Harry Potter, especially in the American market.
That's big, yeah.
I think people are going, like, and that service is a different crowd. Like, it's not really the hardcore gamer anymore because there's so many super high-end, or high-end, whatever. There's a lot of these super Harry Potter fans that might not be gamers. So that it actually, I think, is going to attract a lot of people into that because it's when they showed it, I was so amazed because they've done other Harry Potter games and they're okay.
They're movie games.
Yeah, I mean, and this looked really polished. It looked really good. Like, you feel like it showed that they're trying to make the feel of the world like you're in the school, you learn the lessons, you go through the whole progress of, and I really hope they don't stay tied to the books or to the movies.
So yeah, they're not at all because they didn't reveal too much. I mean, this has been rumored to be in development for I think 3 years, maybe 2 years now, and no one's really known. But yeah, all we know about the game is it's not a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but I don't know if PlayStation is going to have any sort of like marketing rights or whatever, but it was still cool to see at their conference because that was a big, huge deal. But it's an open world RPG, full on open world RPG. I don't think MMO, so I don't think it's online. And it takes place in the 1800s of Hogwarts, which is way before the books. I believe the books,
awesome.
Like the timeline of the books should take place, I want to say like the 90s or 80s.
Okay.
I can't remember, but I know that this is well before. So yeah, they kind of have full a very vast creative freedom in terms of the story that they want to tell.
Because there's such a different type of game you can make if you don't have to follow the storyline, you
Absolutely.
know, and I think that freedom will make it a much, much better game because just the mechanics that are available through that world are amazing, right? And this is actually, and I don't know if the PS5 is going to allow for speech commands, but I always thought Harry Potter and speech commands would pair so well, and we've come so far with Alexa and and Google Home or whatever you want to call it, as well as Cortana. We've come so far with being able to recognize voices that I think it would actually have a chance to be good. And a Harry Potter game where you're actually saying the incantations would be fucking insane.
I mean, the PlayStation 5 has the mic built into the controller now. So, I mean, Xbox does not. So I'm wondering if the developers would either not make it voice activated because it's not cross-platform, or make it to where you just have to plug a mic into the Xbox controller. Because I wouldn't mind wearing a headset during the Harry Potter game just so I can say the spells.
Yeah, no, I think
the headset would pick it up probably better than an onboard mic, especially better than the Kinect when they had the Kinect type controls.
Well, I think that the voice controls have been kind of lost, and I remember telling you this, probably not on the podcast, but maybe sometime in the past, whatever. But I remember telling you this with
Mass Effect.
Thank you, Mass Effect. Yeah. So in Mass Effect, when it just the immersion capabilities of it were just insane because when you're actually calling out your team members by name and then telling them what to do. You just really feel this command over your team, and you really feel a personal connection with your teammates because you're calling them constantly by name. So it's almost like you get a familiarity with them. You care about them more, which I have never gotten before. I never felt since then, and that all came from voice control. And I hope that they will choose that avenue. And also, I have not seen anything about this game on Xbox or Microsoft. So even on any other platform. And I think this is a big game, so I think you would want to put this at your front if you're going to have it. So I don't know. Maybe
I'm assuming that Sony probably has like marketing rights to it, so Xbox can't like put any marketing behind it. But I know it is definitely on PC and Xbox as well.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. Which would I think that's a good thing. I think it's a really, really big game to be exclusive, but at the same time, Microsoft just bought Bethesda. So, but before we get to that, the bad part of that day was how poorly Sony handled pre-orders for the PlayStation 5. It was an absolute clusterfuck.
Yeah, but they already said they're going to come out with more consoles. Like they're going to get enough consoles out. They're actually. I think the whole news stories that came out, and I listened to this on Moore's Law is Dead, and he was talking about it today, and how it was Bloomberg that announced it originally, and I think that they flubbed it a little bit because it almost seems like they used this like under sale of consoles to generate enthusiasm for buying them or pre-orders, because
but like I it wasn't even about low quantity. Like I fully understood that there's probably not going to be a ton to go for. It was the fact that the entire presentation, they had all of these games that were like they wouldn't say the release date because they wanted to wait till the end. So you're sitting there like, okay, what games are or aren't? And then they didn't even say it after the fact. So then they finally announced the price, and then they say nothing. And then about an hour later, they tweet out, pre-orders will be there by the beginning of tomorrow. And that's all they say. And then they let no other knowledge about it go out. And then it's pretty much you had to sit on Twitter waiting for every retailer to go live. And then every retailer's website broke because people were like, well, this is the only opportunity I have. So it was like about 5 hours of just shit going through every website possible to try to pre-order the thing. And like half the websites didn't work. Half of them did work for some people.
But here's
GameStop
the thing.
blocked people out because of the IP. I don't think they were even ready for this.
What does that matter though to them on a sales point? Because you frustrate the people that are going to buy the console no matter what. And probably went through all that trouble and still pre-ordered the console. And maybe you piss off a small percentage of those people that didn't get the console because it was so flubbed. But who cares? They're probably dedicated fans anyways. And the people that didn't, they just came right back out and said, we're going to get more consoles to you, right quick. And it's not, I don't think it's a prop. Like, I don't think
it was a big enough deal that Sony, which they almost never do this, they came out and actually apologized for it.
Yeah.
But they did that after Xbox did what they've been doing for about 4 to 5 years now, which is being as consumer friendly as possible. And they released a release schedule for the pre-orders. They had already announced the day, but now it's
tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Well, you have like that you can download like a PDF for every single retailer when it's going live, what region it's going live, and
when's Amazon? Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna do that tomorrow. I totally missed the PlayStation 5 one. I didn't even know it happened. It didn't seem like it was well. Yeah, exactly.
No, but it was literally I was sitting on the couch with my friend, and we were just sitting there waiting for Amazon to go live because no other website. I mean, like I said, GameStop was so packed over the top. I don't think they were really ready for the timing of it because
Amazon.
They canceled they canceled their website for a while. A lot of people got blocked out just because they were avoiding like DDoSing and stuff. But I barely managed to get a Amazon one if it holds. I got an email saying it might not happen, so. I was pretty early on it, so.
But if they do another round of pre-orders, or if they have enough consoles out on launch,
Yeah, I just don't know if I don't think they're gonna. Like, I know they said they'd have more, but I don't know. I mean,
well, they're definitely not pulling a PS3. They're just not going to do that again. And it seems like they have enough quantity to be able to satiate the population. And yeah, there's a lot of I don't know. This whole pre-order thing, I remember for the PS4, there was all this pre-order. I just waited to buy the console on day, and I got it. It wasn't even a problem.
I think the only reason it's a problem right now is because of Corona and the virus. I mean, it makes every company difficult to match stock. So
yeah, but Best Buy is still open. I mean, like the stores that will and Walmart's still open.
Yeah, but if they don't get enough inventory, you know, because they have to have like pre-order inventory, and like GameStop, you can't go buy a console day one. The only way to get a day one console at GameStop is if you already have the pre-order.
Yeah, but that's always
I imagine a lot of retailers are going to get to that point.
I don't know. That's been GameStop's thing for a while. You know, they usually don't have they're the worst place to go for like day one console. I mean, the best place to go is like Walmart, to be honest.
Yeah, like any store that like
or
no
Target.
One goes to. Fred Meyer doesn't even take pre-orders, so that's great. That's where I got my Switch.
Because you know, GameStops are small and like they don't want people like out the door, and you know, that's why they probably do the pre-order thing, just to minimize. Yeah. And actually, during the PS3, there was like I remember they actually tried to service them in GameStops, and there was like people going nuts, dude. It was like people were trying to steal other people's consoles, and like it was just like the craziest. So I know that's not going to happen, or hopefully it won't, because that's a lesson to be learned. And I think that was just that production was down, and from all the other stories that are coming out now today, or like in the last couple of days, say that PlayStation has announced like their production is good. Like they actually have produced enough consoles to provide everyone with, well, mostly, hopefully, you know, I mean, this is all, how do we know? But I think it's just that the pre-order thing was a little bit flubbed, because I think they tried to make it seem like get people more excited by having less consoles and make it seem like it was desperate that you had to get one now.
And I think the weirdest thing was that, like, because they didn't want to say the price or release date until the end, all those games they were showing off, it was like, oh, is this a launch title? And then after, they didn't really like confirm or deny any of them. They didn't be like, oh, and these are launch titles. They were just like, you just kind of waited until a retailer had the game open with the release date on it, and you're like, oh, so this is a launch title. So, because like I was sitting at the stream and I was like, I knew there was like Ratchet and Clank they said it was release window a couple weeks ago. So, and then Miles Morales was announced as well. But the launch titles I think that came out of that stream was Miles is definitely a launch title, although they went back on their approach and are going to release it on the PS4 apparently.
Well,
so
that's okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, if there's a change, then it would be a downgrading of it. So I don't think. I mean, the biggest problem about multi-console release, especially with older consoles, is that the actual game is sacrificed for the lowest common denominator.
I really don't think that Miles Morales is using the PS5 as much as other games are. I think that they're just going to turn ray tracing off and it'll work fine on a PS4. And then probably go down to like 30 FPS. And then the other one, which I'm very excited about, is Demon Souls. The remaster is a launch title, which I was amazed. I did not think it was going to be a launch title, but that is like watching Ratchet and Clank was really great, and they definitely looked next gen. But Demon Souls, something about it was like that game just really showed off what next gen could look like.
And I really like like Demon Souls the best. It was their breakout hit, you know, and it's just a lot different than the other games. You know, and it's just, I think it's a lot harder. I think it's a lot more personable. Like, you just feel like the other games got a little arcadey, you know, and I just didn't really enjoy them as much. But Demon Souls was like a fight, man. You had to go through that, and it was like, it was hardcore. I think that's the hardest one of them all.
Yeah, I think with Dark Souls is I think that as the games went on, it became a little more. I mean, they definitely kept the difficulty. That's part of the franchise, but it definitely was more approachable of a game. And I kind of saw that with, like, I noticed that a lot of people who played... I noticed more people were playing Dark Souls 3 than any of the other two, because they were jumping in, and that was just like the one that they were okay with, and they were able to play through it. And I think Bloodborne was... I mean, that was a great game as well, but not as many people played it. And then Sekiro, I mean, that was... A lot of people played that, and it was still difficult.
I never played that.
I agree with you. I think Demon Souls is like, it was their first one. They didn't give a shit about any sort of like easy or anything. So I think hopefully they keep that.
Well, it had a very much dungeon crawling feel to it, which I played some of the other Dark Souls, and they did. I mean, they kind of kept that, but it got more dark, everything, and like I liked more of the castle feel and the corridors and the, you know, I liked that. which I felt like it went in a different, not so much of a different art direction, but it just got really dark. Everything just was hard to see.
Yeah, that's true.
But I never really was a huge fan, so like I'm a terrible person to put a commentary on this. But I did play Demon Souls. And I did play the first Dark Souls. I didn't play any after that. So yeah.
And then the game that I feel like not many other people are talking about, and I feel like we really should be, is Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Their 3D platformer. It's a launch title for the PS5.
Oh, that's right.
I'm pumped. I love Sackboy. I was never huge into the Little Big Planet series. Yeah, they didn't show it off again at this one.
Yeah,
I've never been huge into the Little Big Planet, but I like him as a character. So.
Yeah, and I mean, they still have all the stuff, right, to be able to build the world and all that kind of stuff. It's still a creative sandbox, correct?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, so this is just the Sackboy.
Yeah, I believe it is just a Sackboy 3D platformer, which I am so down for. I mean, I still think we need more 3D platformers again. I think it's been long enough that we can start having them again. They're not oversaturating the market like they did.
I'm really excited. My one is Oddworld. I'm super, super excited about Oddworld.
Yeah, I don't know when that's coming out.
Yeah, it might not be a launch title, but nobody really remembers that game. It was super old. I mean, like it came out on the Xbox like around the same time the first Fable came out, and it was, and like it just had a lot of character. It was just a really weird and quirky game, and I feel like they've kept the same feel to it. And I really like. It's kind of got a Lemmings aspect to it now as well.
I noticed that.
With especially the newer videos that have come out, it feels like it's much more Lemmings, which I think it's going to be nice because it'll be more puzzle based rather than just a platformer. So definitely. I'm actually really excited about that for smaller games. The one thing that I did want to talk about that seemed a little bit odd is the PlayStation Play and all these games that are coming to the PlayStation. It's Play, right?
Oh, the new like the thing that they announced for PlayStation Plus users.
Yeah, but why not just put them on fucking now? When is now going away? Like,
so
I don't get it. Like,
again, another thing. That was such a confusing announcement, and then they didn't talk about it, and you had to wait till after. And it just didn't make any sense. So it's called the PlayStation Plus Collection.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this article from CBR.com is titled "The PlayStation Plus Collection is a reminder of how PlayStation Now has a ton of shortcomings." So what this is, and I see why they don't put it on PlayStation Now, because PlayStation Now you have to pay additionally for it, just like Game Pass does.
Yeah.
And PlayStation Plus, you already are, I mean, you're paying for that to get online games, and all it is their way of having backwards compatibility in a digital sense, because I think that they really are trying to push the digital PS5. And all it is if you have PlayStation Plus and you own a PlayStation 5, you now have this long list of last-gen games that you can just download and play.
That's where I have a problem, because it just feels old school, right? It feels like Microsoft is taking this huge leap into streaming, and they're just not able to. And and so now they're like, hey, we'll give them to you to download, but it's last gen. It's a little sad that that's where it's at, because I love PlayStation, and maybe they don't need to, and this has been talked about also, but maybe they don't need to do that because they have the titles, and so they're just going to support the titles and say, hey, this is why you're buying the console. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I really want them to get their act together with PlayStation Now so that I can have two streaming services, and have more relevant games on it. And I don't know,
I do think that, some people are trying to say that this is their answer to Game Pass, and I don't think that's what Sony's trying to do with this. I think that all they want is to, PlayStation Plus, you kind of have to have it. You're kind of required to have it, especially if the PlayStation's your only console and you want to play anything online. So I think this is just their solution for, hey, if you don't get the disc version, which I think they really want people to get the digital version, because Sony makes more money if you buy their digital version, because then every game you buy is going to be from their store and they don't have to give a cut to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think this is just their way of saying, hey, we like backwards compatibility and we're going to give it to you digitally, which, Microsoft already doesn't have to worry about, because they've already built that into their consoles ecosystem for years. So this is honestly them playing catch up, and in a kind of a very low way. I mean, it's only a certain selection of games. So
yeah, and there were good games. It's not like to say that I wasn't excited about those games, and then to be able to play them for free, you know.
Oh yeah, it's a great selection. So
it just isn't enough. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm still gonna buy the console because I really do feel like I don't want to miss out, and that's kind of where they have you. I don't want to miss out on certain games that are gonna come out only or exclusive to PlayStation. So I guess that's just their only card right now. I mean, they really don't have. But how long can they do that for? I mean, the future's changing so much, and Microsoft is basically running the future.
Yeah, so let's talk about Microsoft's and their dystopian futures. So
yeah, sure.
Literally at like 8 a.m. this morning, the bomb dropped, which, first off, I'm surprised this didn't leak. This is a huge deal, and I don't know how, like, I follow a lot of Twitter accounts for Xbox-specific leaks and just gaming leaks in general, and they've been pretty much on top of Xbox's ass the entire last 2 years of always predicting what they're going to do, and not a single person saw this coming. That Microsoft bought all of Zenimax for $7.5 billion. That's more than they spent on Minecraft, which I'm pretty sure Minecraft was $6 billion.
Yeah, no, it was $7.5 billion for this one. I don't know what Minecraft. Yeah, but I mean, Minecraft obviously has been a huge service for them, as well as when they go for AR content and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's. Oh
my gosh, I'm so wrong. Microsoft bought Minecraft for $2.5 billion.
Yeah, so this is 7.5.
I mean, this makes more sense. I mean, this is Minecraft's a game. They're buying an entire company, a company of companies of companies. Like, it's a big deal.
How much did? I mean, this kind of just feels like how things are now. How much did Nvidia buy ARM for?
Oh yeah, that just happened as well.
$40 billion. So,
$40 billion?
We're just throwing money around these days, you know.
Holy shit!
I'm just waiting for the trillion acquisitions.
Yeah, you know, Jeff Bezos action in there, dude. What's Bezos looking to buy?
Which is crazy. I mean, like, you know, and I don't even know what the I mean, I guess I understand it so that they can, you know, make ARM.
I think what's really exciting about to sidetrack off of the Xbox news.
Yeah.
What really excites me about Nvidia buying ARM is to me that looks as Nvidia investing in that technology rather than just like buying it. Like, I think that they're realizing that the ARM is the future, like Apple is kind of realizing right now. So I'm hoping that they can do some amazing advancements in terms of graphics technology on ARM chips so that we start getting competing hardware with Apple. Because if Apple's going to go on this ARM nirvana with their technology, they're going to just outpace everybody in terms of battery life, performance, and maybe Microsoft's interested in ARM. They were for a little bit, but I think Nvidia doing it maybe takes the pressure off of Microsoft to do ARM research, at least on the chip side.
The thing is ARM, and I don't know if you read that article I sent you about the ARM instruction set, but the ARM instruction set's actually been open to change. So they license it out, but you're allowed to make alterations to the instruction set, and it's been that way for a while. This is actually how a lot of companies do it. They alter the original ARM instruction set to suit their purposes.
Yeah.
And so so you can already license the ARM instruction set and advance it if you really want to. I mean, of course, I think the idea of keeping it a RISC instruction set is important, but I suppose you could continue to make it a little bit more complex, or what is it? I don't know the other acronym. Isn't it complex instruction RISC?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that. Anyways, but you could, like, x86, right? x86 has a lot more instructions that are available, so they can do a lot more. But if you're able to alter the ARM instruction set, then why? I just don't get it. Like, sure, whatever. I mean, I think that they'll be able to. I don't know. I don't know what the hell is going to come out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we look at Nvidia, they haven't been. Like, Intel and AMD have been on the CPU game for a very long time, and now Apple has, with their iPhones, and now that they've announced we're making ARM chips for laptops, they're kind of putting a third foot in that system on chip game where Nvidia has been pretty exclusively graphics now. They have some CPUs, but I think this is their way of saying, okay, we need to get in on this war that's about to happen. And that's true. It's a big way to get into that war. Like, holy shit.
To stay relevant. I mean, I think this will keep them relevant. Yeah. No, it's exciting, but like a lot of these things, it's just $40 billion. A lot of these things are, I know, are just hard to see what's going to happen. You know, like how it's going to fold out at this point in time.
Yeah. So with Microsoft, they bought. It was a big shock. Like everybody did not expect this to happen. Phil Spencer went on CNN. That's how big of a deal it was.
No, I watched it. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Nice.
Yeah. And continue.
But the interesting part, and it's funny when this news dropped, which was like 5 days after the PlayStation event, because the PlayStation event announced that, well, not announced, but they reiterated that Deathloop from Arcane Studios, which is published by Bethesda, would be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and that Ghostwire, which is another Arcane, or no, that's a Tango Gameworks. Yeah.
Wait, what was the first one? What was the first one? Sorry.
Deathloop by Arcane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a PlayStation 5 exclusive and PC. And then Ghostwire Tokyo, which is made by the guys who made Evil Within, was also a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And Microsoft reiterated today that those will stay PlayStation 5 exclusives, and they're going to honor those deals, probably for legal reasons. I don't think they could have backed out of those contracts. And then in the future, all Bethesda games will be on Game Pass Day 1 because they're published by Microsoft, and will only come to PlayStation consoles as a case-by-case.
Well, I'm just really excited for all the old games, to be honest. Like, it'll be nice for all their new games to come directly, but this is like, we're going to get so many awesome games on Game Pass, which is like, so cool.
This acquisition was like, I think the initial shock was like, oh my God, Microsoft owns all these companies now. And then everyone was like, so Game Pass is very overpowered now. Like, Game Pass already was like an unbelievable deal and had amazing games. And Bethesda has been one of those companies that's been routinely putting their games on Game Pass. But now every single game is going to be on Game Pass if it's by Bethesda. That's unbelievable.
Or EA, which is the other side. So,
oh my God. You're right. I totally forgot about that. This like completely wiped that away in relevancy.
I mean, it's just so cool because you have two very different crowds. I mean, this is like very first person. You know, all the companies that the subsidiaries are very the first person player, and then EA just has an entire. I mean, they do have Battlefront, but they have all the sports games, which is insane. Like, so you're getting a whole different crowd of people that will be interested in Xbox. And the cool thing is you can play all this stuff on your phone, which is so insane. Like, I'm just so happy that I can do all this. Oh, by the way, I did try it again, and the second time I tried it, after I played when it got announced, so after the official launch of Game Pass, or the XCloud, if you want to call it that, it did get a little bit slower, but I can kind of feel latency because I'm sure there's a lot more traffic.
Yeah,
but it still felt better than anything I've ever felt. I didn't play Stadia, so I don't know. But from what I saw online and what I read and stuff, it seemed like there was a lot more latency in those in that involvement. But it still is so doable. Like I don't like I'll notice the latency if I like sit there and look at like if I turn my camera and then like do that a couple times and like check to see if there's latency, then I'll notice it. But if I'm just playing, I don't even notice.
Yeah, and then some games are just like you don't need that high latency. Like you can afford to lose a couple seconds. So yeah, I played it a little bit as well, and I was playing Super Lucky's Tale, which is it's a 3D platformer, and there is some tight platforming, but not like Meat Boy level type of platforming. So it felt just fine. To branch. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think that it shows like because. It will glitch before it latents, before there's latency. And so, like, I think that they basically sacrifice everything to keep latency high.
Which I think is smart. I think that's definitely, I prefer that.
Because I've had times where, like, glitches out, but I'm still able to move at the same rate, and, like, I'm like, this is fine, whatever, Go on.
To branch off XCloud for a little bit, because we talked a lot about it last week, but today they announced that XCloud from console to your device is free to every Android user.
Oh,
so
cool.
Now you don't need Game Pass to play a game on your Xbox at home and then stream it in your home network to your Android device now, which is cool, and I'll definitely be trying that sometime this week.
Well, I like that they grilled Phil Spencer on the Apple stuff, like, and how they're, and just how he talked about, and he wants to basically show that, Apple is going, that all they want to do is preserve their platform, and that's what they're going to continue to negotiate.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good, because it's basically they don't care that, like, he literally said he doesn't care about the 30%. He just wants the platform to be what it's supposed to be on all platforms, so that they can kind of have a good environment for game players.
Yeah, which makes sense, because I know that Google Play takes the cut as well. So I had a feeling it wasn't the 30%, and it's just that the entire Apple doesn't. There's got to be a way, like we were taking last week. It's gonna happen. It's a matter of time before Apple kind of changes their terms of service. So I have a question for you with the whole Bethesda, like, that is a lot of game franchises that have just been absorbed under this one Xbox umbrella. Do you think that we're going to see more big companies like Bethesda get bought out by the big players like Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony? Or no?
I don't know.
Is this the future? Because this is happening all the time with Disney. Disney buys Marvel, then they buy. They own ABC. Like they own half or more of the entire industry at that point. So are we going to get to that point in the gaming industry where it's just three big players and they own everything?
I do think it's happening right now because of the race. So like each one of these things is like free media, right? Like, yeah, they acquire it, but like it basically is making Xbox look like a powerhouse. I don't know if after the console's launch, if they're going to be so tenacious about acquiring. They might do it here and there, but I don't think they're going to do two in 1 month.
Yeah.
Like, they're just showing, like, I think they want the headline news. They want as many headline news stories as they can, and they got the money to do it. Obviously they, I don't know how many millions of or billions of dollars they can throw at people, but I don't know. I think it's a good thing in the end. I was really happy when Phil Spencer said that he wasn't going to. They were just going to leave Zenimax alone and the Zenimax subsidiaries alone to do their thing, because they're good at what they do. And that's literally, that's what I want. I just don't want anybody to tamper with the, like, we've talked about this a lot on the show. I think the biggest problem with game companies is there's no security, and it literally comes down to the development time. And so if you're a complete independent company and you're trying to develop a game that takes 2 to 3 years to develop, you are not making any money during that time. And so, like, these acquisitions are actually, I think, are favorable to the industry, as long as the acquired companies aren't touched. They're just given funds.
Well, see, that's the weird part about this, is because they went with the buying of ZeniMax. Like, I'm glad that they're leaving the developers to do their thing, because those developers have been making great games in the past. But at the same time, ZeniMax as a company has not been great as a public image in the past couple years. They've had a lot of shit thrown at them. They've done a lot of dumb things, especially with like the Fallout 76 launch and just screwing customers with collector's editions, and just they've had a lot of bad media. And I'm wondering if they're gonna just let them keep on their course, because it didn't seem like it was getting any better, or if Microsoft is gonna dissolve at least some part of the higher ups at ZeniMax to kind of like reshift their, I guess it's mainly public image. Is Bethesda gonna be their own big public image and keep the bad image that they've had recently, or are they going to really absorb themselves with the Xbox image?
Yeah, but I think that's different. That's corporate restructuring rather than the actual game development teams. And like,
I don't think they're going to touch the teams.
Yeah, neither do I. And I think that the teams have been doing really well. And ZeniMax has kind of let those teams do what they do best and just provided them cover to be able to work, without having to worry about financials. ZeniMax on itself, that comes down to how these things are sold, how they're, and there's just a lot of like marketing, and they're obviously responsible for all of that for all the subsidiaries, to be able to get their products out. I think there might be. I mean, that's where Microsoft will probably take over
Yeah,
because, of course,
I would love to see like a depth chart of ZeniMax now, and then I just want to see like Microsoft how they're gonna fuck with it because I'm really curious on the corporate side of things how that's gonna look. But yeah, like Todd Howard's still gonna be making the games just like he always was.
well, there's just too much redundancy. Microsoft already has all that. They already have the ability to market things. They already have. They can distribute stuff. They can put stuff on the. They have so many more services that keeping ZeniMax higher ups. Who cares, right? I mean, maybe they'll absorb them, but I don't know. I don't see the point of having. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big unknown. The fact that Phil Spencer said there's a possibility that games published by Bethesda or under that Bethesda umbrella could come to other platforms is weird. But I mean, Microsoft is publishing Minecraft on every device, and they're even putting it on PlayStation VR, which was announced I think last week. So
nice.
That's really cool of them to do. And I mean, we've seen a lot of their games like Cuphead and stuff was on the Switch. So Xbox is definitely keeping doors open. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm excited about with this is that there's so many more open doors now because now, and it's kind of funny, we got to this point where Xbox owns Obsidian, the guys who invented the Fallout franchise, and they own the guys who currently have the Fallout franchise. And now there's this opportunity for Obsidian to touch that IP again. But at the same time, all of Xbox's IPs, including all of Rare's IPs and everything they've ever acquired, anyone at Bethesda could technically have and make.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's very exciting, and I think that there's a lot of collaborations, as you said, that can happen with. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I think that, and you know what, I told you this over text. I literally think I'm falling back in love with Microsoft. I don't know why. Because I've been sour since the '90s, and like it's and also just. But they're just they get it. Like they understand that making money means making people love you, and like basically being open to cooperation only gets you more money. It only services how many people are using your product, how many people, and this is what Apple used to be really good at before they decided to take political stances on everything. Or at least, with the store and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just about being more cooperative, cohesive with the community, and then those people will start to like you. And also it just allows more people to use your services because they feel comfortable because you support their community that you're telling, like, because they were part of a separate community. And now you're saying, hey, we support that community, but we're going to support it over here on Microsoft. Come join us.
Yeah,
join us.
Yeah, they're ever since they got their new CEO. I mean, he's been pushing open source and accessibility on every front of the company, and I think that Xbox, especially on the accessibility side, is just running with it because it is insane how accessible Xbox is. Even just like on the traditional sense of like the adaptive controller is fantastic for people with physical disabilities, but also just everywhere. Like there's only one device you can't play Xbox stuff on, and that's an iPhone. But but you can play Minecraft on it. So technically, there's a way to play an Xbox product on every single device, including a PlayStation and a Nintendo Switch. There are Xbox games on there. That's crazy.
This is and you know what? This is just my problem with Apple. Is it's like they're the kid at the park. Like you have a better, or like at the playground, and you have a better toy, and they get all sour about it. And they're like, your toy sucks. We're not gonna. I don't want to play with your toy. It's like, stop it. This is the way things are going. You should be including this into your platforms and like enjoying the wave. As what is the stupid saying? It's like a big tide rises all ships, or some stupid thing.
Fucking sure, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some saying like that, but anyways, it's basically saying like if you can say Microsoft is having a huge success right now, and you should be trying to attach onto that rather than rejecting.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, and
don't go security with me, man.
No. I wonder if, like, Apple is being very stick in the muddy when it, like, I wonder if they're like looking at Game Pass and like, nah, fuck that, I don't want that on our platform, or if there's actually people trying. Like, is Microsoft just like screaming at a wall waiting for Apple to like maybe respond one day? Or I wonder if people are actually trying at Apple. And I honestly have no idea. Because I agree with you. I think that Apple always is the stick in the mud, and especially when it comes to like features to their platforms, like they're just like, oh well, that's new and that's stupid. But then like 5 years later, they finally bring it to theirs and they do it their way. And I mean, it's usually a pretty decent way. I mean, they just put widgets on iOS 14,
Yeah, but
which has been on Android for billions of years.
There's a difference between closed systems and open systems, and Apple has always been about closed systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Steve Jobs basically started that. He started the whole closed systems. You know, I watched like what two movies now? Are there three?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, and it's always like about how, you know, he changed the way that computer ports were, and like, you know, everyone was going with more ports, more accessibility, more tinkering. You know, you can swap these things out, and he made it so that it was a closed system, so that it was more marketable as a singular product, rather than something that you get and it's confusing and you build on, which was great then. But now I think that holding on to this closed system ideology is hurting them.
I don't think it's hurting them. Like maybe to someone who wants to be like, maybe to some like to Microsoft, they might be looking at it and it's like, oh, it's hurting them. But when again, there's always a pros and cons to the open system versus the closed system, and we see that all the time with why Windows can be a bloated pile of shit and Mac is not a bloated pile of shit, but it's a closed system. Like, it sucks that it's a closed system, but if you are in the Apple ecosystem and you have their devices and you experience their fully closed thing, it's an unparalleled experience. Like with their like when you have everything together, it works seamlessly better than any other device, but you're sacrificing the openness and the tinkering of it, which like, it's just a pros and cons, and that's a company. That's how they run their company, and it's fine for them, and some people like that and some people don't, and that's why Microsoft is the opposite. Because now Microsoft is even more open than they've ever been. So like there's definitely those two are polar opposites, and they're trying to work together, which they've never worked together well in the past. So it'll merge somehow. I just don't know how.
Yeah. Well, you know, I hope they figure it out. And you know what the thing is with a closed system, the only problem with a closed system is that you are responsible for all your advancements. Where an open system, you're relying on the entire community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so and the thing is that might have worked, and it'll only work worse and worse as time goes on, because as we know, the singularity point, or whatever you want to say, an exponential growth of technology and all this stuff that we could talk hours about. But you know, the idea that technology is becoming more advanced at an exponential rate, the outer system, the community, will grow faster than Apple can keep up with. And there'll be cooler tech on an open system. And like, if you're allowing for all the tech that all tech companies are making, it just is going to be a lot cooler, and it's going to make Apple look behind the times. They cannot, I mean, because they have just fewer R&D to be able to keep up with the entire technological society.
I mean, maybe at some point, but like it hasn't happened yet. I mean, with Apple, yeah, they're closed. They make their own chips for their iPhones, and every single year their chips are faster and more reliable than any other chip on any other plate. Like, they've got the best chips for phones, and now they've got the best chips for tablets, and soon they're probably going to have the best chips for laptops because they do it all in-house, and they have full like, they're a big company with a lot of smart people. But I see your point. Like, yeah, they don't let a lot of people into that ecosystem in terms of R&D, so they're going to miss a lot of beats as well. And we see, I mean, Samsung's got features that, yeah, iPhones don't have at all, but
it's innovation, right? I mean, like, it's not necessarily about how fast your processing is, which will become irrelevant at some point. I don't know, actually. That I take that back. I think that there will always be something pushing the compute, you know, processing. How fast you're processing data. But I do think that innovation will happen at a quicker rate in a larger community than in a smaller community, especially as innovation gets faster and as we see things happen faster, you know, which we will. I mean, it's just, that's the way. I don't know. This is a personal, should I even say this? Rabin was one of our teachers at school. He taught AI. Do you remember when he talked about that, the exponential growth of, do you remember that talk?
Yeah. I remember that talk.
Yeah, so like the people have a very hard time to recognizing exponential growth, and the idea that if we do have exponential growth, we'll get to places where innovation will be happening at such a high rate. And if you increase innovation, a closed system is just not going to be able to survive. And then, I mean, of course, this isn't going to happen now, and it might not even happen in the next 10 years. But in the next 50 years, the next 100 years, can you survive as a closed system?
Oh, I mean, yeah. When we're talking those big numbers, yeah, who knows? I don't know. I think that in terms of innovation, it's tough how you like define that innovation because like other companies will be able to innovate on certain things that Apple won't be able to, but then Apple can innovate on things that no one else can because of their closed system. And I think that the best example would be that they just did that now is their AirPod switching between devices. So they made it to where if you've connected your AirPods to any Apple device, between an iPad and an iPhone. I don't know if it's a Mac thing, but probably. So the second audio is triggered on any device, the AirPods can switch between those devices instantaneously, and you never have to like reconnect them anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a nice thing that's just impossible unless you have full control over everything, or at least it's very difficult to do that. So, but I mean, that's a very minor thing. So I think they're going to innovate, but maybe their innovations are going to become stupid at some point. People are going to be like, well, that's stupid. It's just cooler outside of here. And we'll see where they go with it.
Well, there was a very interesting because I started to do some. Well, I was looking into doing Vulkan, and I don't know if you know this, but they don't allow There is a transport layer or interpretation layer that has been created by Kronos, but it's not sanctioned by Apple. But basically, all it does is it takes Apple's calls for they use Metal. They have Metal,
Yeah.
but so it basically transfers Vulkan calls into Metal calls, which is ideally slowing it down in some sense. But the fact that they refuse to even allow Vulkan to be API to be available on Apple phones is kind of ridiculous. And it just, and now you're talking about the developers, that hurts the developers because they don't want to have to write two different code. That's what the greatest thing about Kronos is, and this is OpenGL and Vulkan, is that you write the code once and it works on multiple devices, and now you're taking that away. And I don't get it.
I mean, I think that's just the state at which Vulkan is. I mean, Vulkan has been around for a while, but it's still not like an industry standard. It's not OpenGL. It's not like, oh, everyone's using it still. Like, it's still kind of in its infancy in terms of being like the graphics programming knowledge. And I think that when it gains the popularity that OpenGL has, it would be very dumb if they don't eventually get Metal to be completely compatible with it. I mean,
no, I think you should not be using Metal or going through, because that's what it is right now. You go through a transport layer or is that right? Yeah. Anyways, that might be the wrong word, but you basically go through a layer that translates it, and I think transport layers with packets and networks, and I know it is actually. Anyways, it's I don't think that's the way to do it. You should just allow the stupid API. It's open. I mean, like it's a cross-platform anyways. So I just don't get it. It frustrates me. As a developer, it frustrates me, and I think that the developers are where you win, because that's where people will want to make apps, and yeah, you're kind of forced to do it because of the market share that they have. You're kind of forced to follow their little game, but I just don't like it. I'm not happy.
I understand.
Yeah. Anyways.
And I think the last thing I want to ask you about the big Xbox thing is, because Game Pass is now becoming just this conglomerate of amazing titles, and they're absorbing EA Access, and they just absorbed Bethesda, which, I mean, Bethesda has so many franchises that they could have their own little subscription service. Do you think that Sony is looking at this and they're trying to... Do you think that they're going to take PlayStation Now and try to match Game Pass and do what they're doing with Game Pass? Or do you think they're going to go... Or do you think Sony's going to leave it, and then that gaming's going to become like cables right now, where every channel thinks that they have amazing stuff and that they need their own streaming service, to the point where instead of the old days where you bought a cable package and you had all the channels, to stream all of the channels, you have to buy like 18 different streaming services.
Yeah, well, I think they have to up their game a little bit, but as I said, I think in the last podcast, they don't have the server structure to do it themselves. So, and I think you mentioned that there is actually a deal between PlayStation and Xbox or Microsoft, right, to allow them to use their servers to support. Was that right?
Yeah, well, they're using the Azure tech,
the Azure tech. Oh,
yeah,
but
so
yeah,
just in general, their technology.
Oh, they're not actually supporting PlayStation now on their servers.
No, well, no, I don't think it's going to be like, running PlayStation out on the Xbox server. It's just the technology, like the APIs and the technology that gets Xbox streaming working is given to Sony to use however they want to use it.
Are you sure? Because I would be very surprised if they're, and it's not, Xbox's servers, it's Microsoft servers, which, are huge because businesses use those. Everybody that's basically using Azure is probably using the servers to host their stuff. I don't know. I just don't see that they have the back end to be able. I mean, they obviously have something because they're allowing for a streaming service of some sort, which has to, create these games on the server. I just don't think they can keep up. I don't think they can do it at the same rate as Microsoft has. And I don't think that, maybe you're right. So maybe they use their own servers because it really is the Azure technology and the machine learning that allows for the speed, because it's the management of the connections and also traffic and all that kind of stuff that really gives you that super fast speed. Because the rest of it is, the servers can run fast, but it really comes to the infrastructure of the network, which is the local, like citywide network or countrywide network. I actually want to know how this runs elsewhere. Have you talked to anybody and asked them like how Game Pass runs, like that's not in the West Coast?
No.
I know they have a bunch of servers everywhere. I just have no idea where all their servers are. And I guess, if you're like, because we're 0 hops away from a server. So the more hops, that only is going to make it worse.
Yeah, I know it's not available everywhere. They announced that it's coming to Australia, I think, in early 2021. But in terms, I think, I'm pretty sure it's in Europe. So it's probably not as great, but it's probably as good as it can be. The thing is there's only light travels so fast. So there's unless you're 0 hops away, there will always, or not even, unless you are plugged into that server directly, there's always latency, and it's just the distance you are away from that server. So the only solution is more and more servers. So I don't know how good it is in other countries. But I think that the Bethesda thing is one thing, but the EA Access doesn't really make sense of why they decided to go with Xbox. I'm glad that they did. But I'm just wondering if other big companies are going to start looking at Game Pass as the only way to stream games and the only subscription-based service. Or if Activision, which is another big publisher, if they're going to say, well, we have a big enough library that we can make Activision Pass and do their own subscription where you just pay Activision $10 a month and you get every Activision game, just like Xbox Game Pass and EA Access. But then EA Access joined Xbox, which it's weird.
Yeah. Does this mean Origin's going away? Like, are we
they said they're killing it. Like the whole trademark and they probably will have the trademark on, but Origin died. Never did it. I don't know if it ever lived, but it's definitely not going to continue doing whatever the hell it thought it was doing.
There's a lot of games that people don't even realize, like SimCity. Isn't that EA? Yeah, I think it is.
I guess Ubisoft has their own service like Game Pass as well. They're another big publisher who, again, are like, I have a feeling we're going to get to that point where every big publisher has their own service that you pay for, and that's how games are. It's just like movies and music. It's just that's how games are at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this might be like the biggest. I think that based on its timing, this might be the biggest Game Pass ever gets. I don't think that they're going to acquire any more big publishers.
Oh, I do. I think they
publishers or developers.
I think if they're willing to throw money around to get publishers, I think it's a bigger game. And I think that the fact that they did this, I don't know who else can do this. But if anyone else really wants to try, I don't know. I mean, there's obviously like really big acquisitions they could make. I mean, they could buy Blizzard, although I don't know if that really runs well with them because other than Diablo, I don't think any other Blizzard game is on console or would play well other than on
there's Overwatch.
Windows. Is Overwatch on console?
Yeah.
It is?
But,
okay, I didn't know that.
But no, I see what you're saying. They don't really have... They
Unlike
have
StarCraft.
They have the franchises, but they don't have the platform visibility to have something like Game Pass. But I mean, again, it's Activision Blizzard. Like, they're together. So when you say Blizzard games, technically there's Call of Duty
Activision.
And all of Activision games. So that's a big... It's pretty big library.
That's true. You're right. It is Activision Blizzard. So yeah, I mean, if that was an acquisition they wanted to make, I would be... I mean, I'm happy going sole... I would be love if Microsoft had a monopoly.
My only worry is that Microsoft is getting too big for their own right. Because, I mean, Microsoft has a horrible track record when it comes to buying developers and either not using them well, ruining the developer, or whatever. Which, again, this is a completely different Xbox team. So I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do. But it just felt like Microsoft was taking a slow and steady approach to getting developers. It was like maybe a couple a year. We were going to slowly build. And this year, it just feels like they're going really fast, and I'm worried that they're going to stretch themselves out too thin, and we're going to start getting developers who maybe aren't getting the resources that they need. But again, if they're going to leave Zenimax to it's just weird. I just hope Microsoft is handling this well, because there's just a lot of people under the Xbox umbrella right now.
I would just be curious to know how much it is to make a game, like, especially for these large companies, because... I mean, you're talking about everybody's salary, everybody, they'll probably get really good benefits now that I don't know what kind of benefits they got before, but under Microsoft.
It's another question. I don't know if Bethesda employees are Microsoft employees, because Microsoft doesn't do that completely. So not all of their studios have, or I would say none of the studios like Rare, Coalition, they all have. Okay, not all of them, but some of them have their own benefits, and some of them don't have the same benefits as other ones, and different salaries, because they're trying, which I like, because they're trying to leave the companies to have their own culture, and benefits, salaries, all of that is part of a company's culture. So they really don't mess with that all that much. Some of them are, like 343 employees, I'm sure, are very just Microsoft employees. Like I think with Mojang over in Sweden, I think they're Microsoft employees, but they definitely get their own stuff. It's just they're definitely their own little companies.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's good, but I mean, like, obviously, if a company's struggling underneath they're going to come in and help them.
Oh yeah, no, they don't leave them to die, but like they definitely let their culture and employees be. I think they might even be Microsoft employees. They just don't get the same base benefit. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's a big corporate structure.
Yeah. Well, you're right, because I mean, like now, if you do take over all those benefits and all those salaries, that's a lot of money beyond just the purchasing the $40 billion. Or sorry, that was the other. That was the 7.5. I'm getting my billions mixed up here. The 7.5 billion. It's like now you got to pay everybody. It's like Jesus.
Yeah, I know, that's insane. But I mean, you get more money. Like you acquired thousands of developers under Bethesda, but you also get the money from their games, so that's cool. But if anything, I hope that this means Bethesda has such freedom when it comes to finances that they can really make whatever the hell they want.
Well, the other question, and I know that we're coming close on time, but the other question is, how are they going to get the revenue stream through their streaming service? Because
that's a really big question people are wondering.
Everybody's paying 14 or whatever. How much is it a month?
$10 a month for some, 15.
Well, you have to get Ultimate. So all these would be Ultimate because they would be on I don't know how they're going to provide them, but I would imagine they're on the streaming part of Game Pass.
Yeah.
But so this would be all the Ultimate people's money that would be filtering through, I would imagine, but maybe it's all, a collection of how much money's coming in through the Xbox service. And there has to be a good revenue stream for these. So like if they're going to leave them up to their own, now what percentage do they take that revenue stream?
Actually, that's a good point. Cause I mean, the only way I can imagine Microsoft funds the entire Game Pass thing is you pay a developer a certain amount of money, and you're like, you get X amount of money depending on how many people play your game, and then like they just look at how many subscribers do we have, how much money do we profit off of those subscriptions, and then is that enough to like manage how many games, which is why they limit their games to a certain amount, because if you just keep adding more games, it's not there's a balance in how many subscribers you have versus how many games you put on there and how much you have to pay developers for their games. But and when at first I'm like, okay, how do they just added the entire Bethesda library to Game Pass pretty much, so how does that work? But when you think about it, the fact that they own those Bethesda titles means that putting a game that you own on that service is free.
Yeah,
you're not paying. They no longer have to pay Bethesda X amount of money every time someone plays Wolfenstein. That's just free.
Well, those will never be rotated out. I don't see why they would.
Yeah, that's why they won't be rotated out. It's because they don't have to pay the developers. They own it. That's a huge... So I think that the way... A lot of people are worried that we're going to get microtransactions and more games as a service to pay for Game Pass, the fact that no one's paying $60. But I think that Microsoft is realizing that, A, $60 is not a lot for the game. Games cost a lot to make. And I think that they're making so much money off of Game Pass that they can afford to just put a game on there and just get more subscribers.
Well, I imagine statistically how they look at this is how much is the game industry generating, and like by meaning how many people are playing games, what is the max amount of people that they could collect and put on, be interested to pay for Game Pass. And then there's the other side of it is how many new adopters can we get? And like, I feel like they really haven't pushed the new adopter side of this very much. They're just really going for the people that already love games. Like, already know about these companies, already really excited about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Is there enough there to be able to support all these companies? And like, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. That's a good place to end. It's a big day for the game industry.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, we'll be back we actually hit our time this week. So YouTube live every Monday at 6.